popular YouTube channel, MrBeast, they might have a lot of questions about Kris Tyson coming out as transgender. I'm Shelby, I'm the creator of Little Justice Leaders, and at Little Justice Leaders, we help parents and teachers talk to little kids about issues of social justice in ways that are age appropriate for them. The first thing that's going to be really important is to make sure you're not shutting down these conversations. If your kids are asking you about this, be open, be honest, admit what you don't know, but don't shut down the conversation, because that's going to teach them that the topic is taboo or that it's something to be afraid of, and we don't want to send them that message. But these questions can be kind of hard to answer, so we're going to go through some common ones so you can know how to handle the questions if and when they do come up. The first question is probably the most common one that they're gonna ask is, how can someone do that? How can someone go from being a boy to being a girl? And at this point, you're gonna wanna tell them that when babies are born, they're usually assigned to be either male or female. And sometimes that assignment is correct and the person grows up and feels like they are actually the gender that they were assigned. But other times that assignment was incorrect. And so that person at some point in their life might come out and say, actually, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. So you can say this happens to quite a lot of people where they realize that they were assigned the wrong gender when they were born, and now once they come out and let everyone know that, the world can start treating them as the gender that they really are. Now at this point, you're gonna wanna reinforce that we shouldn't really be treating people differently if they're a boy or a girl anyway, but that everyone has the right and should be able to safely live the way that they feel like they wanna live and be able to identify the way that they feel like they want to identify. If you wanna go deeper with this would be a really good time also to let them know that some people don't fit into male or female anyway. So some people choose to identify as non-binary, which means that they don't identify with either of the binary labels of male or female. They might be gender non-conforming, or they might identify as both male and female. So let them know that there's lots of different combinations of ways that people may feel about gender and how they want to associate with it. It's not just male or female. Another thing they might ask, something that my nephew asked, was if anyone can do this. Can anyone come out and say that their gender is different than the gender they were assigned at birth? And of course, for this one, the answer is yes. Anybody who feels inside like their gender was not correct when they were born, to how they feel inside, has the option, the right to come out and say, hey, this isn't who I really am. Now again, if you want to go deeper on this, you could get into the fact that some people are held back from doing this because of societal pressure, family pressure, or potential discrimination that they would face. And if you're working with kids, you might relate this to the issue of bullying. While we know, of course, transphobia is a much larger issue and more deep-rooted issue than bullying, connecting it to bullying helps kids understand it because they're likely to understand the issue of bullying, what that means, how that shows up in life. So when you say, for example, they might be afraid of being bullied or being afraid of being discriminated against, kids might be able to understand that a little more than understanding the full complexity of facing transphobia. Another question a kid might ask is whether you or your family knows anyone who is transgender. Now, of course, if you know someone who is trans and out, you can tell them that at that time so that they have an example to look to know a trans person in real life. If you don't know anyone who is trans and out, you can say, as far as I know, there's no one in our life right now who is transgender, but we might not always know if someone in our life is transgender. For example, we wouldn't know they're trans if they haven't come out yet, and we also wouldn't know if they had fully transitioned before we met them. Now, one thing kids do is tend to personalize issues. So when they're learning about it, they might think about how it impacts them. So they might ask, am I transgender? Or why didn't I decide to change my gender when I was little? And the answer to that, of course, would be to ask them, do you feel in your heart like you are the gender that you've been assigned? And you can get into that conversation. And so if they say, yeah, I feel like I am the gender, and you'll say, well, that's exactly why you didn't do this. The people who are going to transition are those who were assigned the wrong gender when they were born. And it sounds like you think you were assigned the right gender when you were born. Now again, at this point, if you want to add more, you can mention that this might change in time. So maybe someday they will change their mind and realize that they actually think that they were born the wrong gender, and that's completely okay. But as of right now, check in with how they feel, and if they're asking why this isn't happening to them, you can just say that it sounds like you were assigned the right gender at birth. Now, if they have seen any of the negative news cycles about Kris Tyson coming out, they might have seen scary headlines like Kris Tyson being transgender is going to ruin MrBeast forever, or crazy things like that. And they might be really confused about why people are saying that. So that's something that they might ask about. And they might wonder why people are saying bad things about Kris or about MrBeast because of this. This would be a time where you could let them know that sometimes people have a lot of fear and hatred for things that they don't understand. And if you want to go deeper into it, you can explain how trans folks have faced discrimination in their lives because of this kind of fear and hatred that exists. Of course, at this point, you're going to want to reinforce that Kris Tyson coming out as trans is not going to ruin the show. And if they truly are friends, then someone coming out as transgender isn't going to impact their friendship. So that this should absolutely not be an issue. And of course they can remain friends. Of course they can remain making the show, and there's not going to be any problems. Now, once they're done asking their questions, you might want to check in with them about how are they feeling? Do they feel like they understood everything you talked about during this conversation, just to check for any lingering fear, misunderstanding, or anything else that might be on their mind or that they might be confused about. But hopefully these common question answers will help guide you through this conversation. And even if they're not asking these exact questions, hopefully you can use some of these same ideas and principles to be able to talk with them in a way that's going to be age appropriate and help them understand Kris Tyson's transition and how it will impact MrBeast, which is that it really shouldn't. For more support on talking to kids about issues of social justice, be sure to subscribe to our channel.